Welcome to No Password Required. I'm your host, Jack Clabby, a cybersecurity attorney at Carlton Fields, PA. And with me, as always, is...
I'm Kaylee Melton, the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Cognitive Security Institute and the Bob Ross of InfoSec.
We just finished a great conversation with Reginald Andre. He actually goes by his last name of Andre. So when we're talking to him, I want to make sure everybody knows we are getting it right. So Reginald Andre is joining us. Kaylee, what stood out to you the most from our conversation?
Wow, Andre is such a natural mentor. I was so impressed with all of the ways in which he pays it forward by making sure that other people can join this cybersecurity party as well. And one of the things that I think I will take with me into my own world of mentorship is making sure that your mentees are leaving with something, making sure they have something actionable that they can actually do once you're done speaking to them. I really loved that idea.
And Kelly, you and I talk a lot on the show about our fantasy cybersecurity squad, and that's sort of what we're building always when we do the our questions at the end.
Yeah.
Building this fantasy cybersecurity squad, Andre has built his fantasy board of directors. He built it and he works with it, and it's he'll tell the story for our audience, and it is a pretty cool thing that he does. So you've heard a little bit about what we've taken away from the discussion with Reginald Andre. Let's hear now what Andre has to say.
Welcome to No Password Required, a podcast dedicated to showcasing the top personalities in the world of cybersecurity.
Welcome. Our guest today is Reginald Andre. Andre, welcome to No Password Required.
Hey, Jack. Thanks for having me.
So, Andre, let's get started with what can you tell us about ARK Solutions? What ARK Solvers? What is ARK Solvers, and what does your day-to-day role look like for the company?
Yeah, sure. So, ARK Solvers, we are a cybersecurity and AI consultancy company located in South Florida, and we protect businesses, typically about 100 employees or less, from cyber attacks. So, things have changed and cyber threats are way up. And we help them stay in compliance with any regulatory governments that they may have, investors that they may have. And also with AI, we're helping them on how to use it beyond ChatGPT and, the normal surface level things.
And Andre, what do you do for the company? Are you involved in everything? What's your role?
I'm the CEO. I help do the fires. On Fridays, I take out the trash. I'm the janitor as well. But no, my specific role is as the CEO of the company, leading the vision, staying engaged with the client and building the business.
Very cool. So the origin story of ARK Solvers, I believe it goes back to CompUSA in the early 2000s. Can you walk us through that journey and how this sort of initial chance encounter changed your life?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you that may not know, CompUSA is like an electronics store back in the days, very similar to like Best Buy. They sell computers and routers and TVs and all sorts of things. And at the time, I was about 18, 19 years old there back in 2002. And I was going to school to become an English teacher, but I would just work there just to, have some extra funds. And one day, this guy comes in and he buys shopping cart after shopping cart after shopping cart full of items, computers, TVs, access points, all of these gadgets. And at the end of the transaction, he had spent $30,000. Now, $30,000 back then. And
wow.
Yeah. And he looked at me and he's like, I have no idea how to set this up. Can you come into my house to get this set up?
Oh my gosh.
And I looked at him, I was like, you brought this for your house? I was thinking this is for your office because you brought like 5 MacBooks and all that. He's like, no, I just moved down from New York and and, I just got an apartment and I need to set up. Can you do it? And at the time, CompUSA didn't have like today's Best Buy Geek Squad. Well, they'll come and set up everything. And I would always do work for my friends and family. So I said, sure, I'll come to your house on a Saturday and get everything set up. So he gives me his address, and it said Miami South Beach. Now, Jack, I don't know if you've been there before.
I have, and I think I know where this is going, and I'm very excited to hear about it.
Yeah, so here I am, 19 years old, and I grew up in Miami Gardens, and that's about 25 miles away from Miami Beach. And I had never been exposed to Miami Beach. Miami Gardens at the time was actually one of the most dangerous cities in Florida, and I had never been exposed. And for the first time, I'm driving on the highway, and I can remember like it was yesterday, and I'm looking to my left, and I'm seeing all of these luxury big homes, Jennifer Lopez and Shaquille O'Neal homes and things like that. And to my right is these huge yachts and cruise ships. And I go into his apartment and it's all marble. He's on the 17th floor looking over the entire marina. So very similar to when you think of like CSI Miami or Miami Vice, that's what this area was, because truth be told, Miami's not like that. That's only a small part, but the rest of Miami is really, shady. So from there, I set up his computers and everything. And one of his buddies comes over and he's like, "Who set this up for you?" He said, "Andre did." He says, "Can you come to my house and set up the exact same thing?" So for a period of 6 months, this guy that I met at the electronics store, he's starting to have all his friends call me like literally every 2 weeks. New person is coming like, "Hey, set me up, set me up." And one day, the guy that I met at the electronics store, he calls me. He says, "Hey, Andre, I didn't tell you this, but I'm a 41-year-old multi-millionaire, retired, just moved down from Miami, from New York, and I want to start a business with you. I know you're going to school to become an English teacher, but I want you to slow down on school and let's start a business together. Let's start a tech company together." So I call my mom and I tell her the whole story, and she says, "Yes, do it. This is why I left Haiti, for you to come to America to have that American dream." And we did it. And now fast forward 9 years later, we are the kings of South Beach. This is like now your Windows 7 days, right? Blue screen, all viruses and all that stuff. And we're doing over $1 million in sales. We have about 9 employees. Everything is great. One day I go to my boss and I say, "Hey boss, I'm happy. My business card says managing partner. My email address says vice president. Things are great. I'm happy, but there's actually nothing in writing to say that we're business partners. Would you mind putting that I'm an actual shareholder?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course. That's a good idea. Let me get with the lawyers and let me go ahead and get that drafted." A couple of months later, he calls me into his office, asks me to close the door. And he said, "Andre, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let you go."
Wow.
Let me go? What do you mean, let me go? I worked 9 years, 18-hour days, 7 days a week building that business. And he lets me go because when he talked with the attorney, they I guess, colluded together. And they said, "Hey, why do I even have to give him shares? Let's just get rid of him and you can have the whole thing to yourself." And that's exactly what he did.
Wow.
Yeah. So devastated. I'm now in the garage of my parking, of the building of the parking garage. I have a 2-year-old son at the time. I mean, this is, to give you perspective, this is in 2008, right before the crash. This is rock and roll days. Yeah. As soon as money was coming in, as soon as we were spending it back then, right? And I literally only had about $100 to my pocket. He didn't even give me my last check. And he told me if I tried to start a business similar, that he would put the 20-mile radius non-compete paper that I signed on. And now I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And I'm a Rocky fan, and I remember the quote from Rocky that says, "It's not how hard you get hit, it's how you get back up."
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do, Andre? Yeah.
Yeah, so from there, I end up foreclosing on my house. He didn't even give me my last check, like I told you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. He had to I had to move back to my mom's house. And then from there, I just said, you know what, let me just try to do things without being, under the radar. I put the business under my sister's name. But, now fast forward 15 years later, I had to open up the business under my sister's name. Fast forward now 15 years later, as you can see with the plaques behind me, we've actually been voted the fastest growing cybersecurity company 3 years in a row by the South Florida Business Journal. We have 8 employees. We're doing over $1 million in sales, and we're rocking, rolling, and helping our clients.
That's incredible.
How much of what you're doing today is that general IT you started with, and how much is cybersecurity?
Well, things have changed. Cyber threats are way up, and I had to pivot my business. Very similar to how when Uber drivers and taxi cab drivers, because what I was noticing was that other people were coming and eating my lunch.
Okay.
I was offering, hey, you know what? Call me when you need me. But clients were saying, well, we don't want to wait till something happens. Then we're down. Now you're going to give me this big bill. I rather you just be proactive and just take care of things so that my employee is not down for 2 days, so that I don't get a ransomware. I don't want to wait to get a ransomware. Protect me from a ransomware. That was a big pivot that I had to do in my business. That was probably about 6 years ago, where we transitioned from doing break fix to what we call now managed services, cybersecurity.
Out of curiosity, what happened to your original partner?
Well, good question. Yeah. So 3 months later, a company that had about over $1 million in sales, they were probably around 1.5 when I left. 8 employees. 3 months later, it went bankrupt.
Wow.
Because I left. The moral of the guy, to his defense, he was the investor, right? What you would call a modern day investor. He was the money guy, but he couldn't turn on the computer if his life depended on it. And once the employees, saw that I got fired, they jumped ship. And then the customers are like, wait, where's Andre? Where's this person, that person? Yeah. And then they basically was able to get out their contracts. And 3 months later, he closed the business.
Wow.
But he was the type of person that would, even though the business was maybe not operational, but he would still send his lawyers on me if he got wind that I was competing against his business. And like I said, I had a 20-mile radius on that.
So you have the pivot 6 years ago, where the focus on cybersecurity and the managed services aspect. Do you think, are we experiencing another pivot for generative AI and AI in the future of cybersecurity? What do you see happening there, and what's been the impact of AI on your business?
Yeah, so we've actually, I would say in the last 3 weeks, just to be honest with you guys, we've pivoted our business. I'm actually now pivoting my about 70% of my time into AI.
Wow.
Because my CEO, this is, I guess, announcement. My COO is going to become, she's going to take care of the cyber division. Because think of a business, right? You have a business, let's just say 50 employees. A third of those employees know nothing about ChatGPT. Another third, they use it maybe to rewrite some emails, hey, give me your opinion on this, maybe something for marketing. And then you have the top third, the heavy users that are using ChatGPT hardcore. They're uploading everything to it. They're using it. They're very proficient. But what are they uploading? Are they uploading social security numbers, driver license information, company secrets? So that business may not get what your traditional data breach, where a hacker comes in. But the data breach is because that person on the top did not have any guardrails or any policies in place. So what we're coming in, and it's going to start with training. Hey, let's make sure that employee that knows nothing about AI, let's get them here, because we're going to be living in a world where AI is not going to take your job. The person who's using AI is going to go and take your job. Yeah. So how do we make sure that everybody's on that same level?
Yeah, it's like you got a company that mows people's lawns, and you got one group of people using a scythe, and you've got another group of people using a lawnmower. I want the lawnmower people, right? It's It's wild, right? That's what it's like.
Exactly. And that's kind of the same pivot we had to take when we went from break fix to managed services, because it's the same concept. It's like everybody's talking about AI, and I'm a cybersecurity guy. But the thing is, to be honest with you, if I try to sell you on cybersecurity, I have to sell fear. I have to give you bad stories. Yeah. And when you're paying me $2,000 a month, where is that immediate return on investment? Yeah. But if I'm coming to you and saying, hey, Mr. Customer, pay me $2,000 a month, and I'm going to show you by next week how more efficient your employees are, or if you were thinking about hiring this position, I'm going to create an AI agent. So instead of you paying $30,000 a year for that employee to do this particular part of their job, I can give you an AI agent for $200 a month. That's going to do the exact same thing, better, faster, cheaper, and more accurate.
Wow.
So you've mentioned that ARK Solvers has been recognized for its rapid growth multiple years in a row, and I know from experience that you can't make that happen without a really strong team. So absolutely. I'm curious, what's your particular approach to hiring? Do you have a special method or a strong intuition for who's going to be best for your team?
Yeah, so one of my mentors is Pat Riley, a basketball legend.
Oh, yeah.
Lakers. And, one of the things that he's a lot famous for is how he builds the team culture. And a lot of times in his heydays, obviously not LeBron, not Magic Johnson, but he was able to build a team that wasn't the great names. And when you're looking at it, you're like, man, these are role players. These are bench players. And here they are going to the NBA Finals. So what we've done and what I've done in the company is, if you look at my, you go to my website, arksolvers.com, and go to About Us, with respect, I'm not going to have the superstar guy that went to MIT and went to this thing. My staff, most of them had stuff from community college, local state colleges, 2-year certificates, because for me, I hire more on the personality and the culture that they're going to bring in. Because I can teach anybody how to use a remote management software and how to use an antivirus software. I can teach that, but I can't teach personality. I can't teach you that when you answer the phone, the client needs to know that you have a big smile on your face and you can't wait to help. And that's what we go for.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that method myself. I fully believe that that's what really creates teams that are bonded together and will work through thick and thin.
Yes.
Speaking of culture and its relation to building a good team, what aspect of the culture you're building at ARK Solvers do you feel is most critical to its success?
So one of the things that I'm always doing that sometimes my team hates me about is I'm always shifting my staff. If you're in my company, like for example, my office manager, she came in as an office manager answering the phones. Now she was doing light bookkeeping. But after 3 or 4 years, I saw something in her and say, her name is Betty. I was like, Betty, you're a social butterfly. Why are you in the office? You're always moving. You come in and you drink 5 Red Bulls already. And she's like, no, I promise you, I don't drink Red Bull. I see you out in chamber events. I see you out in the community representing ARK Solvers and bringing in new clients. So here she came in as thinking I'm going to be an office manager. And now she's been able to increase her salary, make commission on sales. And this goes about. My COO started with me, and she knows she's allowed me to say this story. My COO, Yoli, she came from Broward College. When I interviewed her through a professor with a relationship I had at the local school, I said, hey, can you give me somebody? They don't need to know a lot, but again, personality and things. Wow. It's like, I have somebody for you. Now, here she came in with a 2-year degree, 2-year certificate. I asked her one of my questionnaires, because I still ask the tech questions, and I asked, tell me, what's the difference between a router and a switch? And she fumbled. She could not answer me. And to myself, I'm thinking, my gosh, how in the heck what are this school teaching? You don't even know that? But, oh my gosh, her personality, she came from a corporate telecom company. And it's like that Chick-fil-A feeling when you're with someone. And that's the feeling she gave me. I was like, oh, I want you talking with my customers. I'll teach you a router and switch, but I want that. So we've been able to do that with a lot of our staff members where they came in thinking that they were going to do something based on their qualifications. And now they're running, the migration department, or they're running the AI. Like I have one guy now in my team. We're only 8 people, so we're not big. But he doesn't know it, but he's going to be my future AI trainer. Once I figure out that job description and I'm able to do it, I'm going to give him that SOP and be like, all right, now I need you to learn.
So I have an interesting follow-up.
Yep.
Do you think that your team would agree with you on what the most critical aspect of your culture would be? Or do you think they would have a different answer that's the key to the culture?
Yeah, I think what they're going to like is that I give each of my team members that entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to call it a leash, but that leeway. I tell them it's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. I've had one of my employees, and we had about 800 computers, and this was a big mistake. But she was testing something. She should have done a better way of testing it. And she accidentally restarted 800 of our clients' computers.
Oh, my gosh.
How many people were calling my cell? Are we getting hacked? What's going on? Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh. And I didn't write her up. I didn't scold her. I says, what were you trying to do? Oh, I was trying to do this. Okay, hey, next time, why don't you try it on your computer first, or try it in the test environment that we're paying for? And it was a mistake that she made. But I'll joke with her once in a while about it. But I encourage them to fail. Within reason, of course, but I encourage them to fail, because if you're not failing, that means you're not trying.
Andre, you've said your success comes from a mix of sources. I know you've cited your mom's work ethic, and then this idea of your rich dad sort of business mindset. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are from the people who were in your life?
Yeah. So although my story that I talked about with the guy that I met at the electronics store, although he kind of did me wrong, let's just say. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a complete blessing, because he opened my doors and my eyes to a world that I would have never known. I would have never known about the money that can be made out there. Like I mentioned, I was going to school to become an English teacher, right? And it just really hammered me. And another thing with my mom is a first generation Haitian American, and she came to this country. And she had to do 3 jobs, and she had to do things under the table to survive. So when I saw that grit, and seeing, my father, unfortunately, he wasn't in my life. And he wasn't in my life. And I had to come home. And, if the food was on the microwave, in the microwave waiting, that means mom was coming home at 9 o'clock because she got a gig, cleaning someone's home. So, I think, being able to live that and to see that, and then to know, okay, you know what, even in this atmosphere where, still food, I'm not going to say I was poor and didn't grow up with food on the table, but then being able to see those 2 worlds. When you see one world of what it is to just be like that, a little forward and middle class, and then you see that ultra rich lifestyle that I saw for those 9 years, that makes you, it's a good motivator, right? Like, oh, wow, it's possible.
Yeah. You're actively involved in your community. Can you talk about some of the things that you do that you're passionate about, that kind of shape your professional, personal life now?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was going to school to become a teacher, and I still have that itch, which is why with the AI, one of the things I'm going to be doing is training customers on prompting and things like that. And, we have clients, and most of our clients, they do over $1 million in revenue, some over 30, 40, 50 million in revenue. And it's great to be able to come home after work and look at, what did you do today? How did you help your clients? And when you think about, oh, wow, okay, I kept this $1 million business up and running with their cyber protections, that's great. But one thing I do miss, and I'm sure for professors out there and teachers out there, is when you're walking in your Target or Walmart and little Johnny comes up to you and say, "Oh my gosh, hey, Mr. Andre or Miss teacher, thank you so much for that day that you spoke into me. Because hey, look at my kids. You made that difference. Thank you so much." and I'm missing that, to tell you the truth, because at the end of the day, what is life? To make money, or how are you going to leave making a better way? So with that said, I have done a lot of things in the community. Check my social media. I'm part of was part of the Broward College Foundation Board, to help raise money, bring the awareness on local colleges, state colleges. I'm also helping where I speak to the students. So I go different high schools. They invite me to speak with the students. And because I live very similar to what they're probably going through, everything from single family, everything from, maybe they're an immigrant, especially here in South Florida. And when they see that, like, wow, look at this guy. He looks like me. He talks like me. And he's been able to make his life better. And that's like, for me, and being able to change that environment, that is so impactful. And also with my wife and I, mostly my wife, that's her full-time job, but together we have a nonprofit organization called the CompUSA Project, and we raise awareness on human trafficking both locally and internationally. So we are actually approved to go into the school systems and teach about stranger danger. Hey, when you're playing that Roblox and you got those headphones in your ear, and now someone is trying to DM you and, hey, how's everything going, little Johnny? Hey, send me a picture of you, or do, whatever, let's meet. So we're teaching them that, because unfortunately their parents, their 45, 50-year-old parents didn't grow up with Roblox. So they don't know that anybody from the internet can talk to them. And then we also do international trips where we go to countries like El Salvador, Honduras, Panama, Haiti, and we talk to the parents, because unfortunately with labor trafficking, what will happen is, these kids, these 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, they're first generation cell phone holders, meaning their parents never had a cell phone. So now Maria is posting on the gram a picture of herself on Instagram, and here you have an American and European texting, messaging them, trying to lure them out of the country into sex trafficking. So we also help with that.
Can you think of a specific instance where someone you mentored truly thrived under your guidance?
Yeah, so there's a guy named Michael, and Michael was at Broward College. And when he had started his journey, one of the professors was like, hey, we have a student. We want you to go ahead and then would you mind mentoring him? And typically when I do mentoring with the students, I always give them homework. Because if I'm going to give you my time, I'm not just going to talk to you, chat with you, and then now the following month I come back and you haven't, like, okay, so what are you doing? So I always leave them with something, and I say, don't schedule another appointment with me until you've done this. Mm-hmm. And Michael, every probably 2 to 3 months, we're coming back. And for that whole journey of him getting that 4-year degree in cybersecurity, I was able to help them with how to post in a humble way, talk about yourself on LinkedIn. Because, we live in a world where, that's a great place to get jobs, right? So how do you now, while you're doing your schoolwork, post that I'm working on this API? Because then now that future employer, they're going to Google you, right? They're going to check your Facebook, make sure you're not crazy. They're going to go on your LinkedIn, see what type of project. And thankfully now, I think it was December of 2024, Michael was able to get a job at a local tech company. I mean, he still hasn't brought me lunch. He didn't even get me a beer, but that's a different story. But at least now,
Michael, if you're out there,
if you're listening,
let's go. Andre needs, come on, so a little thing.
Come on,
Maybe he's paying it forward.
There you go. All right, if he's paying it forward, that's fine enough. But yeah, so things like that, and again, that kind of now combines me being in the business world where I can't be in the school system, but still making an impact for somebody.
Yeah, I love your style, and I don't know. It's so clear that you're such a strong mentor, and I absolutely love that. So I understand that you also took a bit of an unconventional approach when teaching your son about IT and cybersecurity. Can you share a bit about that and how a lack of a computer club at his school turned into this really unique bonding opportunity for you?
Yeah, so my son, he goes to a private school here in Hollywood, and I'm paying a pretty penny for it. And when I went to speak to the principal, I told the principal, like, hey, I'm paying a pretty penny, and you guys don't do really anything in computer programming, cybersecurity, anything in technology except, Mavis Beacon, typing and stuff like that. And he's going to be left behind when you compare it to public schools. So the principal's like, hey, Mr. Andre, I know that, but the problem is that we cannot find a computer science teacher. We're only going to be paying them $55,000 plus benefits. And that position can easily, in the private sector, be at $100,000. We just can't compete. So I said, I talked to my son and I said, you know what? I'm not going to let him be left behind, right? It's kind of like the chef having a skinny kid, right? Like, come on. So what I basically said is, okay, I'm going to train you and we're going to just do it every Tuesday. But I already knew that the first Tuesday, everything's going to go great, but then life is going to happen and we're not going to be consistent. So I says, you know what? What if you get a couple of your friends and let's just start a computer club? And that's what he did. And we did a flyer. And then the principal was like, yeah, absolutely. They teamed me with a teacher. And here we are every week for the last 2-3 years now. We've had the computer club. He's a president of his, of the club. And I've been able to bring in parents to actually teach the class because I'm not an expert at that. I'm actually like the least qualified technology person in my company. So I don't know programming. I can't, I'm the spokesperson, right? So, but I had experts come in. And the cool thing about that is he, without us even realizing this, he was actually building his resume. Yeah. Because now he put on his resume that since the 10th grade, he's been the president of his computer club that he co-founded, 10, 11, 12. So while all the other students are like, yeah, we, fed Sally at the nursing home because we had to do our required 100-hour community service and we did a cleanup because we have to do it. Here he was doing something in tech, being a founder. And he was actually able to get into a state college in Orlando. And that was one of the main reasons is because of that initiative that he took. So I would actually give the advice for any student that is listening now, and I get this all the time. They come to me in their senior year asking for an intern, or they come to me after graduating. Oh, can I get an intern? And I'm like, what were you doing the last 2 years in school? I mean, what you got a degree in partying? I mean, come on, like. So for the student that's listening, I would highly, highly recommend that, whatever project that you're working in school, you put that into your LinkedIn, you put that into your social media or GitHub or whatever it is that you're doing, and you build that portfolio. And don't wait till you graduate to look for an internship. Even if you got to go and just say, hey, I'm going to get the owner, coffee every day, and I'm going to just answer the phone for free, but I want to do something in this respective company, do it. Do not wait.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break now, and when we return, Andre is going to go through our lifestyle polygraph. Stay with us.
Okay.
You're listening to the No Password Required podcast. We cover cybersecurity and a lot of other stuff.
Welcome back. As many of you know, the Lifestyle Polygraph is a test used by the federal government to determine if a person is worthy of learning some of our nation's most important secrets. Here, though, we use this technique for only slightly lower stakes to determine whether our guest can join our fantasy cybersecurity squad. Andre, are you ready for the lifestyle polygraph?
I am ready. Let's do it. And I'm not crossing my fingers either, so let's go.
Good. All right. First question. You're passionate about mentoring. If you could have any fictional character as your mentor, who would you choose and why?
Yeah, so funny enough, I'm actually using AI now as my mentor.
Ah, yeah.
I have created a board of directors with the top mentors that I admire. And when I'm now trying to make a business decision, I now say, hey, Steve Jobs, tell me what you think about this. And the AI Steve Jobs is going to tell me if it's creative enough, if it's something that the world can live without. And, sometimes he's harsh. So I've actually created the AI mentor. But to answer your question, I love my Grant Cardone is one of them. I love what he talks about on the business side. But now I have Grant Cardone on my AI.
That's really cool. I've been using AI a bit to help me think through things, but I hadn't gone that next step of like giving them different personalities to pull from specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. So if whatever your business that you're in or your student or whatever, and you just want to know how that person's mindset would think, you go ahead and throw them that prompt and say, all right, tell me how you think, how would this person respond? What would you do in this situation? And it's going to go ahead and give you the answer you're looking for. Or at least
I like that. Then you can ask for two different people, like how Steve Jobs would approach it, how Grant Cardone would approach it, and see if there's something different in the approaches.
Absolutely. And it's actually I have an AI board of directors. So it's 10 people. I have finance, I have advertising, I have growth, scale, culture. Howard Schultz is on my board. Warren Buffett's on my board. Dave Ramsey's on my board. Damon Johns is on my board. Gary Vee's on my board. And whenever we're trying to do something to grow the company, even my social media, how will Gary Vee, who's a very famous marketing social, how would Gary Vee post this to get the most clicks? And boom, just like that.
That's a really
Sorry,
cool
I threw you guys off on that, but go ahead. Sorry.
No, I love it.
I love it. Yeah. I think that's really cool. All right. Second question. You've been tasked with creating a nationwide cybersecurity mentorship program for kids. What's the first item on your agenda to ensure its success?
Give them hands-on. Nothing, no theory. If we're going to be talking about cybersecurity and whatever the case is, we're giving them a laptop and they can mess it up. All we have to just do is re-image it, redo it, but everything has to be hands-on. No books, hands-on. Everything hands-on.
Yeah, it's true. It's like the hierarchy of effectiveness is like hands-on, fiction book, nonfiction book, any kind of video. Like the hierarchy of effectiveness. I like the idea that you're starting with.
So you didn't even say lecture. Lecture wasn't even on your list there.
Oh, yeah. Are people doing lectures anymore? Yeah, that's a great point. I don't know where that would be.
Yeah.
I don't know where that would rank. There was a study that I saw that had those components to it. But yeah, a live lecture, human lecture wasn't even on there.
And the crazy thing is, it's non-thing, but they said that with lectures, there's only, I believe, a 3% retention rate.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh. And then there's some difference too if the kids are typing notes versus handwriting notes.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
It changes too. Like the holograph, the writing is better than the typing because the typing is so fast now that kids are just acting as if they're not doing interpreting. They're just copying down the words.
Oh, well, I do worse. I just record the notes, ask GPT to give me the pointers that the teacher is most likely going to ask me on the test. And I just do it.
That's amazing.
All right. Number 3. You're taking on a modified version of the Grant Cardone challenge, starting with just $100 to help as many people as possible in 1 month. What's your first move and why?
Well, I got to figure out how am I going to double that $100. So what I would do is probably go to a thrift store or find something and try to see if I can resell it. So what I would actually do is I would go to like in a Goodwill and I would like just start shopping and like, all right, let me put this on ChatGPT so that it can tell me what this is. Is this an antique item that someone donated because grandma died and they just decided to give it Goodwill, not realizing it had a $500 value? and then I would buy it for $4.99 at Goodwill and then sell it on eBay. But I wouldn't even buy it first. I would make sure I have a buyer, and then I would then go back, pick it up, and then sell it.
That's smart. Okay.
I love that idea. Yeah, they're finding the buyer first, right?
Yeah,
that's the difference between a businessman who's been in the game for a while and somebody who's just starting out.
Right. Then you have a lot of Mary Kay stuff in your garage.
You're not going to carry inventory for a period of time on this one. Oh, that's great.
Okay, fourth question. If you were to assemble your ultimate heist team, who are the 3 people you would choose, and what roles do they play?
Ooh, all right. So if I'm going to do a heist team, then I would need a superhero that was blind, that was invisible. So I don't know who that invisible, I'm sure there's one. And then from there, that way they can just walk into the bank without anybody seeing them. And then I would probably want someone in law enforcement to tip us off that the police are coming. And then I would probably want a president so later on he can pardon.
I like the way you think.
Yes. If I get caught, that is, yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
When you were telling the story about the CompUSA guy coming in and filling up the shopping carts, I thought there was a chance where that was going to go was he was planning some elaborate heist. Because that's like an Ocean's 11 or like a Mission Impossible. A lot of times the guy lists the hacker guy, right? Here are my requirements, right? I need. There's a scene in that first Mission Impossible movie where Ving Rhames' character's like, he lists, I need the prototypical, I need the prototype 686 with this kind of hard drive,
right?
And it was really cool for 1994. I love those scenes. I thought maybe that was what you were doing. You need a lot of gear.
Yeah,
you need headsets to communicate with each other with earpieces.
Believe it or not, back then and probably still now, most the easiest way of stealing something is just to take it and walk out.
Right, exactly. You don't need, if you go after hours, that's when they have the alarms turned on.
Right, exactly.
Right.
You just sort of walk in during the day with a big smile on your face.
Okay, final question. If you had the chance to live in one of these iconic fictional Miami worlds, the Golden Girls, Miami Vice, or Too Fast, Too Furious, which one would you choose and why?
Wow, I would do Too Fast, Too Furious. That sounds fun, but Miami's full of red light cameras now. I don't know if you guys have that up there.
Oh.
They even put them in school zones.
Whoa.
Yes, we have red light cameras that are actually in school zones, not even during school zones time. So school could have finished at 2, but because the machine is there, hey, why not? If someone's going more than 20 and it's a 30, ticket. They also have it on the school buses. So when the little thing opens on the school bus, if you go around it, you get a ticket. So I would do Miami Vice, but I would probably make sure I do my full stops and just kind of respect the laws.
I'd forgotten that the Golden Girls is a South Florida show.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, right? I'd forgotten.
One of the characters is from Minnesota, I think, and then Betty White's character. They talk about that a lot. But I'd forgotten it said in Florida. That's really interesting. Miami Vice, obviously, but the Too Fast, Too Furious too. It always seems like if you watch those movies, even now, like the characters are all hanging out without cell phones on. Like they're all talking and hanging out. Like if you had a group of people who were doing that today, who look like that today, they'd be just buried on their phones the whole time. They wouldn't be doing the hanging out. Like I like this idea that we're all going to hang out and drink Coronas together and not look at our phones. Like I want to meet those people and I want to hang out with those people, not what those people would be like if they were actually in 2025.
Yes.
Because it would just be like, you couldn't pull off half that stuff. It'd all be up on YouTube.
Yeah. And they'd probably be like, and then they would have been like, streaming it while they're doing like, hey, I'm hungry.
You'd be arrested 2 seconds later. Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Because they were texting and driving,
Yeah.
That's why he has to take the stick shift out in the old Dodge and he pulls it out because he needs both hands to operate it.
Wow.
To put his cell phone down.
All right, Jack, what do you think? Does Andre have what it takes to be on our cybersecurity squad?
Yes, Andre, welcome. You can join our fantasy cybersecurity squad. You'd be tasked with AI education and helping us get set up on with our board of directors.
All right, there we go.
Your role for sure. Awesome. Andre, thanks so much for joining us. If our listeners want to learn more about you and your company, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so you can just look me up for Reginald R. Andre on LinkedIn, social media. But LinkedIn is probably the best way. And then give me a call, 786-664-8275. And you can give me a call. I'd love to chat with you and learn.
I have to say, Andre, we've done dozens of these interviews. You're the first person who's ever provided a phone number. That is extremely cool and says a lot about the way you do business. That's a very, very cool thing.
Well, I'm going to pull the curtain behind. I went and said, I'm going to go on this podcast. What should I say? And I'm not saying I'm not being genuine, but I want to make sure that and that's the thing again, right? Are you going to use AI? Or is AI going to, take your job, or are you going to take the person that's not using AI's job?
Yep.
So you always want to do the best, and AI is the tool that I'm using. And if I'm going to go on a podcast, I want to make sure that I'm saying what's going to be relatable, know who my audience is, do your homework, and things like that.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. That brings us to the end of the show. Thank you, everyone, for listening. For the entire No Password Required team, I'm Jack Clabby, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for listening to the No Password Required podcast. Join us next time for more with your favorite cybersecurity personalities. In the meantime, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this episode. You can find us on social media at NoPasswordPod. The show is produced by Cyber Florida, and a special thanks goes out to our friends at Carlton Fields and Reality Shift. For more information, visit our website at cyberflorida.org/pod.